Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think now is the time to talk a little bit about writing. Or basically what I found out for myself. First and foremost, if you want to write anything, start small. Write short stories and or keep it local. Want to write a fantasy novel in a big setting? Okay, you can actually start with that. I don't recommend it, but you can start with it. And even there I would say start local. Make 1, 2, 3 or 4, basically a few chapters in a smaller setting. Just so you get the feel of it. The feel of your characters, the feel of your world, so on and so forth. Just start small for the big. Just start small. Trust me, it helps. Why didn't you write then? Because motivation. It's literally just motivation. Seriously. At one point I have to go down there. Because this never-ending groaning gets on my nerves. Just grand. Come here, little torch. Aha. So, what else? What else? What else could I give as beginners and amateurs advice from a beginner/amateur? Go around your city, or basically the place where you live. Get some inspiration. Go into the woods. Just go outside. Just take a stroll to places where you have never been. For example, I never was at a children's pond. Never ever. I wouldn't say that inspiration struck me there, but nonetheless it helped somewhat. Because I actually want to include something like the children's pond. A children's pond. Because I find that massively interesting. Cluck. Now here. Go out, take a stroll, look for little myths and legends in your area. Like the children's pond. You have throw a coin over your back and right shoulder, and in due time, your wish for a child will be granted by the stork. Something like that. Get some local myths and integrate them in your story. Or into your story. It helps to make the world go round. I need gates. There's 3 of them. One. Ah, come on. 2. Ah. 3. Set 3. And I may have overdone it. Yes, I have. Of course I did. I'll get some local myths and integrate them. Then... okay. I will now say 2 things that somewhat contradict themselves. First, no history. Not the history of your written world, but real-world history. You can derive a few things from that. It's really helpful, because some great characters already have existed in the real world. You can base a few characters of your own upon this, let's say, schematic. And why shouldn't you? And now, for the beginning, just don't care about the history of your world. Don't need to write an elaborate compendium before you write your world. You don't need to write a fully fledged compendium about your world before you write your story. And what I mean with don't care about the history of your world, I don't mean go all over the place and contradict yourself. Just leave it out for now. Unless your main character, your protagonist, is a historian, then, well, have fun, I guess. Oops. Because then Yeah, you actually need to worry about that. But even then, I would say not that much, because you don't have to know everything at once. You just don't. You would go utterly insane if you had to. Just, if your character is an historian, start out with local history. Again, keep it small, keep it local. It's just, you want to start, not finish it right now. What else? What else? Ah! Me falling down, apparently. But what else? What else? Keep it small. Keep it local. Have a few local myths. Inspired by your world, by the real world. In your world. Know history and leave the history. Know the history of the real world, and what did I say to? Leave out the history of your world for a while. That's 4. I have already a 5th, which I already used myself, as you all know from a previous episode. The city names, the city names. If you want city names, bastardize a few words. For example, my wife, Weifel, comes from Weizenfeld, cornfields. Or Dragenboek comes from Drachenbuckel, Dragon's Back. Oh nee, I need you. Up. I'm sorry for that interruption. Where was I? I guess bastardization of a few words. Bastardize to your heart's content. Because I apologize for the interruption again. I'm a popular man right now, apparently. I don't know why. Where was I? Bastardized words for city names. Yes. Jesus. Come here. Really? You didn't do... Oh, come on. Really and seriously. Done now. Done now. Well, that are basically my 5 tips I have. My 5 tips I found out for myself. They work for myself. Don't know if they work for you if you want to write. And as you could have gathered by now, all those advices are for the world. I don't give you any advice for characters because that's your shenanigans. If you want to start with the Uber God of Destruction and Doom, be my guest. Be my guest. I say that would be a terrible choice of protagonist, but it's your story. If you can pull it off. Excuse me for a second. And I'm back. My apologies for the constant interruptions. As I said earlier, apparently I'm a popular man at the moment. Family. Oh, come on. Where was I? I had my small rant about characters. If you want to do stuff, then do stuff. And see how it works out for you. Only advice from me there, from beginner to beginner. a bit small again. You need space for growth. It's space for growth. Now, all these advice I gave right now, all these things, these are for excuse me. These are for basically fantasy novels of varying sizes. Of course, if you want to write history fiction, you still need to know history. But, well, you don't need to bastardize some words for city names. Knowing the history of the real world becomes infinitely more important. Infinitely more important. As become local myths. Yeah, that works. So if you want to do that, keep that in mind. Thrillers and krimis. Thrillers, let's say detective novels, because I don't know how to call krimis in English right now. Finally, I call upon you. I need your help. Krimis in English. Those, but thriller, detective novels, krimis. The real world is infinitely important for them as well. Not so much the history, unless you have a history fiction krimi thingamajig. Then, well, okay. Then history becomes important too again. Okay, now, how do I want that? Maybe. Seriously. And that's basically it. And try to be cohesive. Just don't spring around and basically disregard portions of what you have written before. It gets confusing and is a sign of bad writing. If you actually don't care about the past, meaning what you have written before in the story or before the story, if it is a little bit bigger, then it's bad writing. Don't do that. Don't disregard the past. Know the history of your world as well. Because if you don't, you're in deep, deep trouble. Because your readers know, and they will point it out ruthlessly. If the reader cares more than the writer, then the writer does something wrong. Which shouldn't be the case. Because in some respects the writer is a god of the world, the creator. And if God doesn't care, then, well, why did he create in the first place? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. That would probably be my last advice. Care for your creation. Care for your world. Really. Really, really. Of course, you just can't know everything and you will make mistakes. That's where the reader comes in. 4 eyes see more than 2, so on and so forth. That's normal. But excuse me. But care for what you are writing. Try your best. Not your best to make it grand and epic, but care. Try your best in caring. Put love into it. Make something you can say, I'm proud of it, even though you are somewhat dissatisfied with it. And I will pull a Plague of Gripes again. Rework it over and over and over again. Just do it. If you find something that strikes you as unfitting or contradicting, don't be afraid to change it. It's your story. You can basically do whatever you want. Then again I say, don't do whatever you want. Treat it as a world of its own. Treat it like it was real. Cause and effect, so on and so forth. The people in your people in your world have an effect on your world. Rant. I say, instead of rework it over and over again. Well, as I said earlier, 4 eyes see more than 2. I don't mean wear glasses, have another person read it. Or a few other persons. Get some input. Input is important. Well, and with that settled, I actually have talked a little bit about writing again. If you want to write, I have given you some of my tools, so feel free to use them. Feel free to use them. And I think with that I will end the episode. Jesus, that episode was rather cohesive. I astonish myself. I astonish myself right now. Last two episodes. And now, straightened up. Bauch rein, Brust raus. And just talk. Grab a topic and talk. And even that in a cohesive manner. I'm good. I'm fine with that. Well, anyway. Now I say good night and sleep well.